Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to my sunroom on this beautiful, sleety, snowy, cold, blustery day in April. Go figure. I feel like we have had just kind of a late April Fool's Day this year. It is just so unusually cold today, and I was wanting to show you Big Red still in bloom. I've gotten a lot of questions from you all on previous videos that I've done on Big Red. What are you doing with him this month? Well, right now, as you see, he's still in bloom. He has been in bloom since November. I don't see any new segments growing out on this plant right now. So what I'm doing is I'm just watering with just regular reverse osmosis water, and I'm not fertilizing yet. Normally in April, by the calendar, they tell you, start fertilizing your Thanksgiving cacti, start watering it more. But the temperatures here have just not been conducive to doing that. We've had some beautiful days here in East Tennessee, some that have been around 70 to 75 degrees, but not enough of those days to stimulate new growth. So when you're growing plants, you have to read your room, you have to read your plant, you have to see what your environment is telling you. If you're having an extremely warm spring, then you probably already have new growth on your Thanksgiving cacti. But so far, I don't. The temperatures have just not been high enough to cause this to start growing again. So it is blooming beautifully. As a matter of fact, I think this is the longest that this plant has ever been in bloom. I'm very, very surprised. With the cooler temperatures, the blooms will actually last longer. And obviously it's gotten plenty of sunshine, but not high temperatures. So here we go. Still budding, still blooming. So I haven't done anything differently. I'm watering it once a week. Just watered it today, as a matter of fact, and no fertilizer yet. So maybe on my next update video, I will be fertilizing it. We'll just have to wait and see. And here's my other Christmas red Thanksgiving cactus. As you can see, there's so many buds that are about to bloom on this plant. So this year has just been a very different growing year than last year was. We had already gotten up into the 80s a couple of times by this time, mid-April last year. So I've just noticed that when you start fertilizing them too quickly, you really don't need to do that. Your fertilizer is to make them grow and bud, and they've already done that. So they're still budding, so I'm not fertilizing. As I said before, you really do have to watch your plants and see what they're telling you. These plants are not hard to grow at all, but on the other hand, I believe that when you give nutrients when they don't need them, it confuses the plant, or I believe it can even cause them to lose the buds and the blooms that they're already working on. So I don't want to do that. So pretty easy care here so far, just watering once a week. Like I said, the temperatures have just not been high enough to warrant that twice weekly watering that I normally do in April so far. And as you see, here's my white Thanksgiving cactus. This one's going to bloom again as well. This is just so unusual that, we're here the second week of April and these things are still budding. So just wanted to show you all what these look like right now. I think it's just fantastic that they've been in bud and in bloom for so long this year. And now let's talk about cuttings, because so many of you have contacted me saying, when can we prune our Thanksgiving cactus back? When can we take cuttings? Here's the thing, when they're in bloom, you have to be careful when you're taking cuttings. You can do that at this time, but just don't don't take any part of the plant that's still in bud or in bloom, or you're just going to mess up the beautiful blooms on your plant. So as you see here, this is one section of Big Red that is in full bloom. So I'm not cutting back anything right now. There's parts of the plant that are green. So, and I make sure that there's no buds that are forming on the ends of the segments, just to make sure that I don't miss out on any buds and blooms. So let me show you how I take cuttings. But like I said, if your plant looks like this, it's still in full bloom. Just wait until these blooms fall off before you take any cuttings. Select part of your plant that isn't in bloom. And really, you can take cuttings anytime between, let's say, April until October. I wouldn't take any segments after October because that's when the buds are starting to form on these plants, and you don't want to mess up anything that will cause it to bloom for you. So I don't cut anything after the month of, let's say, October. October 1st, I don't take any cuttings. But let me show you how I do that, and you can prune these back and shape them any way you want to. As a matter of fact, I have been pruning this back a little bit at a time because this plant is so huge that if I do it all at one time, it would take me all day. So I've been pruning back little by little for about the past week. So let me show you how to take cuttings. Okay, I found a section of this plant that is not blooming. Do you see how that's not in bud even? Okay. This will make a really good cutting right here. And when I refer to cuttings, I actually twist between the segments. It's actually just very easy. I tried to do this with scissors, and I actually did more damage than good because I thought that you had to take scissors to get a cutting. All you do is you hold the segment right above where you're going to twist off. And it's a good thing to get 3 sections because it's going to root and it's going to bloom quicker than if you just take a section or 2. Now, I've taken a section or 2 and got blooms off of it, but this is a little bit easier to work with when you're actually planting it. Okay, let's take another look at this, and right here I found one that's quite long. That is not a bud. They kind of look red on the tips for some reason. That's just the way that the plant. Let me make sure that's not a bud. No, that's not a bud. Okay. All right, let's take a slightly longer cutting of this one. You can take 3 or 4 sections or whatever you want to do. But let's take this one right here. I'm going to hold right here because I'm going to twist between these 2 segments right here. Okay, there we go. And if you want a nice full plant, what you can plan on is, let's say in a 4-inch pot, if you put 4 or 5 of these segments in a 4 or 5-inch pot, you're going to have a nice full little plant in a couple of years. And like I said, after I take cuttings, I usually get them to bloom the next year. It's very easy. You can root them in water or you can root them directly in the soil. And as we just look at these beautiful blooms on this gorgeous Thanksgiving cactus, I wanted to thank you all so much for your many notes of condolence regarding my father's passing. Thank you so much for all of your kind words. I appreciate you all more than you know. You all are my orchid family, and just know that my comment section is just always such a pleasure for me to read through, and I appreciate you all. So before I let you go today, I'd love to say the blessing over you all. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Make His face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn His face towards you and give you and your families His shalom peace. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you all next time.